First, our Why It Matters segment on this Friday evening. Millions of Americans are suffering because of the cuts to air travel. Parents aren't home to see their kids. Friends are missing weddings. Others can't get to funerals. Many families won't be together for Thanksgiving. America's airspace is literally melting down. Meantime, air traffic controllers are working without a paycheck and then driving Uber to try and make ends meet. You responded in droves, hundreds of you, to my Instagram last night about how grounding private jets would save all of us normal folks who fly commercial. It'll free up the airspace in the air traffic controllers, so that's a good thing, makes life easier for all of us. And now that all the people who normally fly in private jets, either on net jets or their own planes, whatever it is, well, they're going to start calling their senators and say, please make a deal. All right, so let's start with this. It takes just as much work for an air traffic controller to deal with a private jet with one CEO on it as it does a Boeing 737 carrying 200 people. Today, for example, someone paid roughly $60,000 or more to fly on NetJets from Washington Dulles Airport to Aspen. Took roughly 4 hours. So why did I pick that flight among many? Because Washington Dulles Airport canceled more than 20 flights today. So that slot used by one private jet to Aspen could have saved at least 100 people's, maybe 300 people's, depending on the size of the plane, the commercial plane that could use that slot. It would have saved canceling that flight. Then there is NetJet's Flight 5104 today from Washington Reagan Airport to Burbank, California. The airlines canceled 157 flights out of DCA. Tens of thousands of people had to scramble or pay for new tickets and hotel rooms. But there it is, that one flight, well, that took the slot. That one private jet took the takeoff and landing slot at DCA. One private jet carrying the very rich, or a 737 with 200 people. Every time there is a private plane in and out of one of these airports, there is a choice. There are dozens, if not hundreds of examples just like the ones I showed you at every major airport across the country every day. The same 40 major airports where the FAA is demanding airlines cancel flights are filled with private jet traffic. We checked, so can you. And it's not just cancellations, it's delays. There were 5,400 delayed flights in the United States today. Reagan Airport in Washington, 4-hour delay. Houston, 3 hours. Phoenix, an hour and a half. And yet, there are dozens of private jets at each of those airports right now clogging up the system. It's ludicrous. NetJets brags they have over 1,500 flights a day. As far as we know, they did not have a single cancellation today. There are thousands more private flights by other operators and corporate flight departments. We would show those flights to you rather than me sitting here telling you about them. But those folks hide their planes from public view for just this reason. So why does all this matter? There are 1,493 commercial flights in the United States today canceled. So if you ground private flights, just grounding NetJets would more than make up for the 10% reduction the FAA needs to keep everybody flying safely. And let's be honest, the private jet crew is also the big dollar donor class. So if we make them fly commercial, they will call their senators from both sides that they give big money to and force them to make a deal. There are two sides to this story, sort of, kind of. And we invited the head of the National Business Aviation Association to come on and try and make his case. In a shocking turn of events, he declined. But let's be clear. We can show you with data. There are tens of thousands of Americans who could be at home with their kids tonight or at their friends' weddings, but for CEOs and celebrities who use their private jets at America's biggest airports while the FAA is canceling commercial flights. We begin tonight with retired air traffic controller Harvey Scolnick, Mitch Roschelle, CEO of M2 Communities, Managing Director, Madison Ventures, plus NewsNation contributor Chris Cillizza. Harvey, I want to just start with you here. In a case where the FAA is drastically canceling commercial flights and having 3-hour delay programs at the biggest airports in America, is there a reason private jets should be given landing rights much less priority at some of these airports?
Whether they should have landing rights or not is beyond my pay grade. I can tell you this, that they fit very well into the system. They fly at the same speeds as airliners.
Okay,
They fit very well.
let me ask you this question. Am I correct that for every slot at Reagan or O'Hare or LaGuardia that a private jet lands, you could put a commercial airliner there and not cancel 150 people's travel plans?
I don't know what you could or couldn't cancel. If you replaced the slot that a private jet was in with an airline, that yes, of course you could do that.
Okay.
I don't think that fits with your argument, though.
Okay.
First of all, the FAA has always been very, very attentive to general aviation. Always.
Right.
I mean, it takes years and years to have a rule change. Pardon me?
I said, right, it's time to change that, especially when you're in unprecedented times like this. Mitch, what I think is fascinating about this situation is that it is not a Republican or a Democrat thing. When you start calling senators about this, as I have been doing, they are just loath to discuss this issue.
Of course, these are all of their friends, whether it's the donor class, as you mentioned. And what's amazing to me about it is when you're flying on a NetJets flight by yourself and, boxing out 150 people who could have gone to see grandma, you can actually make a phone call from the air on a NetJets plane, something that us, peasants can't do when we're flying on JetBlue. This is a very simple solution. And Leland, as I think I said to you offline, I see a lot of stupid things on Instagram. Your tweet or post of last night was the smartest thing I've seen since this entire shutdown started. It's such a simple solution to it's a non-political solution to a problem, because both Democrats and Republicans are flying on those airplanes, and it's time to just let them fly commercial like the rest of us.
Yeah, Cillizza, it's fascinating to me because I've heard from a lot of folks upset with me over this. And I've also heard from folks who kind of love this idea. Next to COVID, evidently this is the best thing that's ever happened to private aviation, is the canceling of all these commercial flights, because there's a bunch of people now who need to fly and are willing now to shell out the thousands of hours to do it. I guess, Cillizza, my question to you is this sort of not the ultimate test for the populist movement?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, little did I know Leland Vittert was a populist. I'm amazed at that. This should be plank one of your presidential campaign. Yes, look, I do think that a lot of people, when they find out I'm a political reporter, and I'm sure, Leland, this happens to you too, a lot of people will be like, what's the real deal in Washington? And I always say the most important thing to understand about how Washington works is everybody thinks it's red versus blue. It's really just green, right? Money drives all of this stuff. And that is true of Republicans and Democrats. And it is more true today than it has ever been true before. Yeah. The truth is, really wealthy people, they are buying influence. They are buying access. It is just how the system works. It is why you don't see things like this happen, because you know who it would impact? The kind of people that have the cell phone number of the senator and can text them and say, "What are you doing?"
Right? It's why it would work if you shut down private aviation.
It would certainly hit them where it hurts.
Right. The donor class would change things.
Politically speaking.
This is Sean Duffy. No special treatment. Take a listen.
This has not been political. We have worked overtime to make sure that we minimize the impact on the American people.
I have to say, Mitch, I don't like sort of saying someone's not being honest, but they're not, because you could very easily cancel private aviation flights and it would have a lot less of an impact on the American people.
It would have zero impact. It would have only a positive benefit to people that are, standing on the Chick-fil-A line in Atlanta right now, not knowing when their flight's going to take off, right? If you just cleared out the 10 NetJets flights that are going to fly out of Hartsfield tonight. It's very simple. And I think it would be very easy for the president to pick up the phone, call Sean Duffy, say, let's figure, in the White House counsel office, figure out how to write some sort of executive order to just, as an emergency action, ban private aviation and let all those people fly commercial
Yeah, well,
if they have to
or
go.
ban-
And by the way, just to add to Mitch's point, this is not a president who has been resistant to expansive executive power and executive. I mean, there's been plenty of times when I've been like, yo, I'm not really sure that's a smart thing to do, but like this would actually be one. I mean, it does. By the way, just purely politically speaking, it fits very well into Donald Trump's sort of broader populism. I would also note, however, Donald Trump is a rich guy who's friends with a lot of rich guys who take a lot of private planes.
Right.
So,
I was thinking
it's a
about
rubber meets the road instance.
I did get asked by somebody, would this proposal include Air Force One? But so
that one probably gets
an
exception.
Yeah, the other idea, though, I thought about, though, is you could just ban them at the 40 airports. Right? You wouldn't even have to just end private aviation. It's not being done. Lost in this, and I think we all realize how inconvenient it is for all of us at the airports and for anybody who flies or anybody who's waiting for grandma to come for Thanksgiving. Lost in this, I think, is the discussion of the air traffic controllers. One of the great things that happened at the NewsNation town hall was there was a controller who got up who's still working an 8-hour shift every day, and then going to drive DoorDash because it's the only way he can afford food and tuition for his daughter's school. Chris had him back on tonight. Take a listen.
We're not political pawns. And I also want to say that we also aren't the only federal employees that are struggling right now. The tension is growing, and it's not exponential, but it's on the daily. Anticipation of getting paid is a big deal.
Yeah, and not getting paid is even a bigger deal. Harvey, did you ever think you'd be in a situation where you were trying to deal with the lives of thousands of people flying at hundreds of miles an hour and at the same time worried about whether or not you were going to get your paycheck?
I've been in the middle of shutdowns before, and I have gotten a $0 paycheck in my time as well. But let me say this. I really think it's not general aviation that is causing delays. What's causing, because there's no difference 2 days before the strike, pardon me, before the shutdown, a year before the shutdown, controllers were still working 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. And now, because controllers are calling in sick in inordinate numbers, that's the reason for delays.
Yeah.
Where were these delays 2 weeks ago?
Well,
3 weeks ago?
They're all calling in sick because they're working two jobs and they're trying to go.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is, if you can find a way to get the controllers to go back to work, that is the answer to handling lots of these delays.
It's a great point.
Figure out
it's a great point.
First pay them.
Pay them and
guarantee them that you're going to work on their CBA.
Mitch, Chris, Harvey, thank you very much. Mitch, thank you very much. Good to see you guys.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.